first, the disclaimer. I understand EFI. I've worked with EFI since the 1980s. I was one of the first proponents of EFI in high-performance cars in the late 1980s. I ran a Mustang with the EFI. I was the first guy to put a Buick turbo car with the EFI into the 13s back in 1987 or whatever year it was. I've worked with EFI every step of the way. So I'm saying this to head off all you guys are going to be like, oh, you're from the Stone Age. Oh, you're trying to be a throwback or whatever it happens to be. Go buy a scanner, right? No. I'm telling you all of this at the very beginning so that you understand where I'm coming from when I explain the situation. All right, so with that said, we picked up this 1990 Ram Charger a few days ago. And it was a non-runner. It actually had been somebody started to scavenge it as a parts truck, but we caught it before it went too far. But at any rate, it had been parked. And judging by the amount of butchery under the hood, somebody went through a lot of trouble to try to keep this thing running. And I'll get to that in a minute, right? So the choice was this. The choice was, do we restore this thing back to the original 318 TBI that it came with, or do we just convert it back, retrofit it to like 1987 specs, and put a carburetor on it? So to me, the choice is obvious, given how I intend on using this truck. This is going to be a working truck. My intention with it is to tow, trailer, race car, carry my dogs in the back, tools, the whole 10 yards. It's going to go hundreds of miles from home. So here's the situation, right? Let's say I do convert it back, or I restore it back to the original TBI. I'm 300 miles from home. I've got a car on the trailer. I got my dogs in the back. I stop at a rest stop to take a leak. I go out, I turn the key, it doesn't start. What do I do? Where do you even start? Okay, so let's say you've brought your scanner, you've brought your diagnostic tools. Where do you get the part? You know, it's a 1990. A lot of this stuff isn't going to be on the shelf. So even if you do get yourself to a parts store, you're kind of out of luck. So the choice was to restore the TBI, in which case this is what we're looking at using to run this car, or convert it to a carburetor, and that right there is the only wire I need to make the engine run. Yeah, I'm going to go with this. So a lot of you guys are going to be like, all right, so why don't you put one of the aftermarket EFI systems on there? That would be an even worse situation than using the factory parts. At least there's a chance, if there's a problem with the factory parts, of me getting them, you know, in a pinch out on the road or even local, right? I can get them in a hurry. If it's an aftermarket system, I'm really stranded. There's nothing I'm going to be able to pull out of my ass to get this thing running again and get me where I got to go. I know that every show you watch on TV is shoving these EFI systems down your throat. And listen to me, I'm sure they're good. I'm sure they work. I know they're reliable. I get that, right? But the purpose you're using the car for dictates whether or not that's something you want to get involved with. Like if I was only going to use this truck to go to and from cars and coffee, let's say, you know, it's going to be a Sunday afternoon driver. Yeah, you know, one of the aftermarket EFI systems is probably a viable choice. But this thing is going to be a road warrior. I'm going to go out into the wilds of the country and do my thing with this truck. I don't need to carry that burden of I can't get this part hanging over my head. So that's the reason why we're going to go with the carburetor on this. You know, just as an example, right? Once I decided to go with carburetor, I says, well, you know, I'm going to have to weed out all of the systems in the truck that had to do with the original EFI. And I found after untaping and unwrapping this original harness, I found where these three wires had melted into each other, you know, and this is what caused the previous owner's havoc with this. Where's that other melted one? Right there. So, at any rate, this is the situation I'm trying to avoid. This is the situation you probably want to avoid. If you're going to rely on it, if you're going to drive it every day, if you're going to go distance with it, make it simple. Make it as simple as possible. Carburetor is the way to go. It has some shortcomings, but overall, it'll never let you down. It's analog. You can fix it with a screwdriver. You can tap it with a hammer. You'll get it to where you got to go. All right, that's it. I'll see you tomorrow.